Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna8 back again with another vlog. At the end of my previous vlog, I mentioned what the topic of this one was going to be, and that is a problem that I've been having off and on with my Atari Jaguar. And I would expect that most people who have a Jaguar have either experienced this problem, are experiencing this problem, or will experience this problem. I am referring to the red screen of death, or red screen of doom if you prefer. Doesn't really matter. It's the same problem. Even the initials are the same. Now, first of all, I will tell you what I noticed was happening, the symptoms, my diagnosis of the problem, my verification of that diagnosis, and the last minute research that I did on it, and then what I plan to do about it. Now, I would take a cartridge for a game for the Jaguar, and I would insert it into the cartridge port, and I noticed that the cartridge would move forward or backward, like that, which it should not do. And although usually when I turned on the system after the system boot up, with the roar and the familiar music of doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, boom, although it's different with the Jaguar CD, different system boot up. After the system boot up, usually the game would boot up, but occasionally it wouldn't. It would go dark, and I would notice that the power light was off. So I would turn it back on, roar, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, boom, power light would go off. So remembering that the cartridge was moving backwards and forwards, I would take hold of the cartridge, I would turn the system back on, and as it was going, roar, I would move it ever so slightly, boom. Usually the game would boot up, not always, in which case I would try to get it, move it ever so slightly, even further from where it had been. Generally, that would be enough to correct the problem for that occasion. Although one time I was playing Cybermorph, and I was over 500,000, which at the time was higher than my then high score. And I brushed up against the cartridge, and screen went dark, power light was off. I have got to figure out what this problem is. So I got it back up and everything. I got to thinking, well, it's obviously a contact problem of some kind, but what's causing the contact problem? It could be any number of things. I immediately thought of, well, maybe the ROM contacts in the cartridge are dirty, which should not be the case because the Jaguar uses cartridges which were designed to be self-cleaning. Not like a self-cleaning oven, but through the action of inserting the cartridge and pulling the cartridge out and reinserting it and so forth, is supposed to keep the board clean. And I have never, with my cotton swabs, gotten any dirt off of the ROM of a Jaguar cartridge. 2600 I have, 7800 I have, NES I certainly have. This is especially true when I buy a used cartridge. A lot of dirt off of those, but not with the Jaguar. So, okay, well that's not the problem. My mind was going over, well, what could be causing contact problems? Then I, of course, immediately thought of the problem with the Model 1 NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, the front loader, the one people commonly refer to as the toaster, not the top loader, the Model 2. Assuming you inserted a game cartridge, and then you push down, and then close the lid and turn the power on, sometimes, as the system got older, you would start experiencing a flashing green screen, which is what the system did if you turned it on without first inserting a game cartridge. And the problem was almost always caused by bent contacts within the cartridge port of the console. So it became routine for people to replace the pins inside of the Model 1 NES. So the next time, and it wasn't long after that, that I went to one of the stores in the retro gaming store chain, Game Over. I went in there, and the manager happened to be in there. I told him what my Jaguar was doing. I told him what I thought the problem was, and he told me, I can almost guarantee you, because they do not only a lot of repairs on consoles, older consoles, but they do a lot of mods. So I can almost guarantee you that the contacts are bad. He said, if that's not the problem, then it might be, although I don't think it is, but it might be that the cartridge port slot is loose, which would explain the cartridge moving backwards and forwards. So I'm going to need to take it in there and have them replace the pins, and if the cartridge port is loose, have that tightened up. I already am planning on taking 2 NES Model 1s in there to have the pins replaced in those. They just got in a huge shipment of replacement pins, and there's a waiting list on getting NES Model 1s fixed. But I have my original boxed one, and when it died, I bought a second one that was not boxed, and when it died, I got a Model 2. And the problem has never occurred with the Model 2, which is, as I believe I mentioned, a top loader. Okay, after being told that, I prepared to do this video tonight as one last effort to verify what I was about to say in this video. I went to the forums at Atari Age, which I recently became a member of, and I did a search, and I found a thread in the forums, Atari Jaguar Red Screen of Death. And I was reading through there, and there was the usual thing of, well, did you try blowing into the cartridge? You know, this is what a lot of people do with a lot of systems, but you shouldn't have to do it with the Jaguar. Eventually, I got to somebody, I believe he was in Germany, who said that pin contacts inside the cartridge port of the console. And then after a couple more suggestions of cleaning the cartridge and all that stuff, a few more people said, no, it's bent cartridge pins inside the port in the console. So I'm going to take my Jaguar in and have Game Over fix it. In the meantime, it is still working, mostly. Now, a couple of things I want to touch on before I go. Coming up soon after this video, I don't know if it's going to be tonight or if it's going to be tomorrow, I'm going to do a game ads video because I have received 3 parcels in the mail condensed into this box of games. I received 2 packages from Atari Age containing 2 games for the Atari 2600, a game for the Atari 5200, and a game for the Atari 7800. I still have another shipment that is still pending at Atari Age. They haven't shipped it out yet, of a boxed game for the 2600 and a boxed game for the 7800. Now, also in this box, I have the 2 Japanese exclusives that I ordered for the 3DO, and they are in immaculate, like new condition, so I'm really excited to have those. I missed out on the delivery of another game. It was a notice was left by the United Parcel Service, or United States Parcel Service, I should say. The note was left with this package stating that this parcel had to be signed for because it was being tracked. It had been shipped from Japan. My wife thought that was strange, that somebody shipping from Japan a package that would be shipped by United States Parcel Service or Postal Service or whatever. But anyway, I looked up the tracking number, and sure enough, it's one of the games for the Sega SG-1000 that I ordered. So I'll be looking for getting that. And the 2 homebrews that I ordered for the NES have already shipped. The pirated game for the Genesis/Mega Drive from Russia, that has shipped from Russia. What else? Well, the 2 other Sega SG-1000 games I ordered, but they've shipped also. And I have a lot of aftermarket releases for the Genesis/Mega Drive that have not shipped yet, but I'll be getting them when they do. And as I am one of the backers of a aftermarket homebrew release for the Super Nintendo/Super Famicom, I am getting daily email updates on that one. Tonight's email just had a screenshot that they wanted to show off. But in any event, there's that. And if you haven't checked out highscore.com, do so. For one thing, it's great to be able to see what other people's scores are for different games and to submit your own scores, but also a way that people use to verify, or what some people do to verify that their score is legitimate, is they put up a YouTube video, play video. And I have found a lot of great YouTube channels that way, and I have found a lot of interesting looking games that I want to get that people have done play videos on. I try and vote on as many submissions for high scores as possible. And of course, I want people voting on mine too. Yes. I want people voting yes. I've already won, what was it, 4 or 5 trophies, but they're for the same game. I won for Cybermorph, the official high score in the city of Jacksonville, Florida, and I was awarded the official high score for the state of Florida, and the official high score for the US of A, and the official high score for the world. Since then, I have submitted another high score for Cybermorph that's 200,000 or 300,000 points higher. It just needs 3 more votes, yes votes, and then it's in. So I will wind up cracking my own high score. But that happens. All right, I think that about covers everything. I do need to show some game ads that I picked up over the last month or so. A lot of gaming magazines, but other things too, like film magazines and so forth. So, until next time, when I do my next rambling video, stay awesome. And I would insert it into the cartridge port, and I noticed that the cartridge would move forward or backward, like that, which it should not do. And although usually when I turned on what's happening, the symptoms, my diagnosis of the problem, my verification of that diagnosis, and the last minute research that I did on it, and then what I plan to do about it. Now, I would take a cartridge for a game for the Japanese system after the system boot up with the roar and the familiar music of doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, boom. Although it's different with the Jaguar CD, different system boot up. After the system boot up, usually the game would boot up, but occasionally it wouldn't. It would go, problem, are experiencing this problem, or will experience this problem. I am referring to the red screen of death, or red screen of doom if you prefer. Doesn't really matter. It's the same problem. Even the initials are the same. Now, first of all, I will tell you what I noticed. Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna8 back again with another vlog. At the end of my previous vlog, I mentioned what the topic of this one was going to be, and that is a problem that I've been having off and on with my Atari Jaguar. And I would expect that most people who have a Jaguar have either experienced this